The day was almost too perfect to believe. The sun hung high, casting golden light across the sprawling garden where the wedding ceremony was set to take place. Delicate white flowers, roses, peonies, and lilies lined the aisle, their fragrance mixing with the crisp spring air. Twinkling fairy lights hung overhead like stars caught in the branches of the ancient oak tree, casting a soft, romantic glow. The sound of laughter and the soft hum of conversation filled the air, blending harmoniously with the soft strum of a guitar. Every detail had been meticulously planned, from the blush pink ribbons adorning the chairs to the vintage lace on the bridesmaids' dresses. Guests were smiling, the mood light and joyful, and my heart should have been full. It should have been perfect. But there was a tightness in my chest that refused to loosen. A shadow, barely noticeable yet undeniable, clung to me. My eyes kept flicking toward the far corner, where he stood. He, my ex-boyfriend, the one who once held my heart in his hands, only to crush it when I least expected it. He had been invited by a mutual friend, and seeing him there, so calm and composed, made my chest ache in a way I hadn't anticipated. I shook the feeling off. I was no longer that girl. I was no longer the one he had abandoned without an ounce of remorse. Today, I was marrying someone who adored me, someone who lifted me when I fell. And yet, even with that reminder, a part of me, the part that once loved him so deeply, couldn't fully shake the feeling that something, somewhere, was missing. Liam arrived, fashionably late, striding in with his usual air of superiority, flanked by his entourage of wealthy, arrogant friends. They laughed too loudly, their expensive suits catching the sunlight like they owned it. My stomach turned as I watched them, watching him. His eyes scanned the room, eventually landing on me, and I felt a chill run through my spine. I tried to ignore it, focusing instead on the warmth of my fiancé's hand in mine, but the knot in my chest tightened. Liam's presence was like a ghost from my past, haunting the edges of my perfect day. A flash of memories hit me. His sneering face, his cruel words. "You're desperate," he had said the night he ended things. "You'll never be good enough. You'll always be stuck in this small life you've created." Those words had shattered me. They stung even now, making my chest tighten with the weight of the past. I had spent so long believing them, letting his mockery and rejection define me. But that was before I learned how to pick up the pieces. I had rebuilt myself, piece by fragile piece, after he'd left me for someone richer, someone more perfect in his eyes. And now here I was, standing on the cusp of a life that was mine. A life built on my own strength and self-worth. This wedding wasn't just a celebration of love, it was a declaration, an undeniable proof that I was worthy of more than what Liam ever gave me. The reception had been beautiful, but as the night wore on, an uncomfortable undercurrent began to ripple through the room. Liam and his friends were standing by the bar, their voices rising in cruel laughter that felt too sharp to ignore. I tried to focus on the music, the warm laughter of my guests, but I couldn't escape the whispers, the cutting remarks just beyond my hearing. Then I caught it. Liam's voice, unmistakable, thick with mockery. "Did she really think this dress would impress anyone? Looks like something from a bargain bin." His friends snickered, and I could almost feel the heat of their stares, even from across the room. He wasn't done. "I bet she begged him to marry her, you know, desperate to escape her little town." His voice trailed off into another round of laughs, and I felt my face flush with humiliation. Nearby guests shifted uncomfortably, pretending not to hear, their glances darting away as if they could distance themselves from the tension. My maid of honor, Jessica, had noticed too. She moved to my side, her hand resting on my shoulder. "Ignore them," she whispered, her voice gentle. But I could barely hear her over the pounding of my heart. I smiled at her, a tight, forced smile, holding my tears in check. The truth was, I couldn't escape it. The shame, the sting of Liam's words. I wasn't just humiliated by him. I was ashamed of me, for once loving him, for letting him break me. And yet, I held my ground. I had to. I couldn't let him see the girl I used to be. The clock ticked on, each second stretching longer than the last. Ethan was late. It wasn't like him, and I could feel the tension building in the air, thick and heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Guests exchanged nervous glances, their whispers growing louder, as if the uncertainty had taken on a life of its own. Liam, sensing an opening, couldn't resist. He leaned back in his chair, the corner of his mouth curling into a smirk. "Maybe she's been stood up," he said loud enough for the group to hear, his voice dripping with sarcasm. I mean, why would a guy like him, well, a guy who's actually good enough, want to marry someone like her? Laughter followed, and my face burned with the sting of his words. I tried to laugh it off, but the knot in my stomach twisted tighter. Was it possible? Was Ethan really going to leave me standing here, alone? I had to admit, doubt crept in. What if he doesn't come? What if he changed his mind? My heart pounded so loudly that it drowned out the sound of the crowd. Each passing second felt like an eternity. I could feel my hands trembling, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on me like 100 invisible hands. I needed space, air. I stepped away from the crowd, slipping into the quiet of the garden, my breath shaky and uneven. I needed to calm myself, to remind myself that Ethan wasn't Liam. He wasn't like him. He loved me. He would come. But doubt gnawed at me, and I struggled to hold myself together. I stood in the garden, the cool night air brushing against my skin, and for a moment I let myself breathe. The chaos of the reception faded into the background as memories began to surface, memories of everything I had overcome. I had spent years rebuilding my life, piece by piece, after Liam shattered me. I built a career from scratch, poured everything into my dreams when he had told me I'd never be good enough. I found healing in the quiet moments, in the strength I didn't know I had. And then there was Ethan, who had come into my life not as a rescuer, but as someone who saw me for who I truly was. He saw my dreams, not as unattainable, but as something we could chase together. With him, I didn't need saving. He believed in me, not just in spite of my flaws, but because of them. He respected my ambition, supported my growth, and celebrated every small victory. He saw me as worthy long before I truly believed it myself. I wiped away the tears that had started to fall, my breath steadying. I wasn't that broken girl anymore. Liam's words, his presence, they no longer had the power to define me. Ethan would be here. He was always here. With that thought, I turned and walked back toward the ballroom, my head held high. This was my day. I wouldn't let Liam or anyone else take that from me. The moment the double doors swung open, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. A hush fell over the crowd, every eye drawn to the figure standing in the doorway. It wasn't Ethan in a tuxedo, as I had expected. No, it was Ethan in a decorated military uniform, his posture straight and proud, his eyes locked on mine. His uniform, a symbol of years of service, glittered with medals, and for a split second, it felt like time itself had stopped. But the surprise wasn't just his uniform, it was the look in his eyes, the way he seemed to know exactly what mattered most to me. And then it hit me. The surprise he had planned wasn't just a grand entrance, it was a gesture of love that only he could have orchestrated. Earlier that morning, I had found a package waiting for me, letters from my parents, the ones I had thought were lost forever. They had written to me during the time of my wedding, sharing their wisdom, their love, their hopes for me. Ethan had arranged it all, knowing how much I had longed for a connection to them on this special day. He understood me better than anyone ever had. The guests murmured in awe, their whispers of admiration filling the air. Liam and his friends were frozen, their faces pale with shock. No words to mask their disbelief. Ethan had done more than show up. He had given me everything I needed, in the most unexpected, beautiful way. And as he walked toward me, I knew that nothing in this world could take away my joy. Not Liam, not the past, nothing. Ethan's steps were steady, purposeful, as he made his way toward me. The room was so still, so silent, that it felt like everything was holding its breath in anticipation. As he reached me, he took my hand in his, lifting it gently to his lips. His kiss was soft, reverent, like I was something sacred, and the look in his eyes made my heart swell. In that moment, it was as if I was the only person in the world. The hush in the room deepened, the weight of the moment pressing down on everyone. Ethan's voice broke the silence, smooth and sincere as he spoke to the gathered guests. "I want to take a moment," he began, his eyes never leaving mine, "to acknowledge the strength, the resilience, and the incredible journey this woman has taken. She has rebuilt her life from the ground up, not just for herself, but for all of us, who have had the privilege of watching her grow." My chest tightened as his words washed over me. This was real. Ethan wasn't just my partner. He was my witness, my supporter, my constant. And when he thanked me for allowing him to be a part of my life, I felt the truth of it deep within me. He took my hand, his grip warm and sure, and led me to the center of the ballroom. As we moved through the crowd, my gaze swept over to Liam, whose face had drained of color. In that fleeting moment, I saw something I had never expected to see in his eyes: fear, regret, and, for the first time, I felt power. The room was alive with laughter and clinking glasses, the toasts flowing as freely as the champagne. Ethan had just finished his heartfelt speech, and it was my turn. I stood, the weight of the moment pressing on me, but this time it wasn't fear that held me. It was power. I smiled, my eyes sweeping across the room. "Thank you all," I began, my voice steady, "for being here, for sharing this day with us. It's been an incredible journey, and I'm so grateful for each of you." I paused, letting the words settle before my gaze shifted ever so slightly toward Liam and his group. They sat back, too comfortable in their arrogance, unaware of what was about to come. "There was a time," I continued, my voice growing stronger, "when someone doubted me, someone who thought my dreams were too big, that I would never be enough. They told me I was too much, or not enough. But that doubt, it only fueled me. It pushed me to find a strength I didn't even know I had. It drove me to become someone who could stand here today, proud of who I am." I took a deep breath, holding their attention with a quiet intensity. "To those who made me feel small, thank you. I am bigger now than you ever imagined." The room erupted in thunderous applause, and I stood there, heart pounding, as I looked at Liam. He couldn't meet my eyes. There was nothing left for him to say. The truth had been spoken, and I had finally found my voice. The music swirled around us, filling the room with joy. Ethan held me close, his laughter a perfect melody in sync with mine. We spun across the dance floor, lost in each other, free from the weight of the past. His hands, warm and steady, anchored me, and for the first time, I realized how light I felt, how completely unburdened. As we danced, my gaze drifted toward the door. Liam was leaving, quietly slipping out of the ballroom with his friends, his posture deflated, his confidence shattered. I almost didn't recognize the man who had once made me feel so small. There was no anger in me, no desire for revenge. Instead, I felt a sense of relief, a quiet peace. He no longer had any power over me. His cruel words, his mockery, none of it could touch me now. I had already walked through the fire and emerged stronger, better. Ethan's embrace tightened as we continued to move together, and I felt the weight of it all. How far I had come. My heart wasn't just full because of the love we shared. It was full because I had finally let go of everything that had held me back. I wasn't the girl who had once loved Liam so deeply, so blindly. I was the woman who had risen from the ashes. I had healed, grown, and found a love that was real and true. And for the first time, I knew with every fiber of my being, I was whole.